What's up, everybody? Smartlead released this ebook right here, which goes over everything that you need to do to be successful at running your email campaigns. And this is hyper relevant because they've seen hundreds upon hundreds of millions of emails get sent through the platform. However, what we're going to be focusing on is one of the chapters, which is going to be the warm-ups chapter, and I'm going to be showing you how to automate everything that they talk about within that chapter. But for anyone who's curious how I got a hold of this ebook, you simply need to navigate over to the Smartlead website, or you can type in this URL, ebook and guide. There's other ebooks as well, which I'm going to be reading because after looking at this one, I'm super impressed. And all you need to do is simply download the free ebook and you're going to get this 97 page document. Cool. So let's navigate over to page 41, which is the warm-ups section. And this is what we're going to be automating. What they recommend is that whenever we bring on new accounts, we start with 5 warm-up emails per day up until 2 weeks has reached. Once 2 weeks has reached, we're going to be increasing the warm-up volume to 40 emails, but we're also going to be changing the reply rate. So to begin with, it's going to be 30%, and then afterwards it's going to be 70%. Now, you can obviously do this manually, right? Like if you were to click on your Smartlead account and do a bulk update, you're able to change the bulk settings of your warm-ups, right? You can do this, you can add a 40 here, and then you can change the reply rate to 30%. And then after 2 weeks, you can change that to 70%, right? The problem, though, that arises is that when you're dealing with, say, hundreds of accounts or even thousands of accounts, this becomes a really, really big challenge to manage. And so the best way to do that is by automating it to ensure that it's always the criterias that you have set up all the time. So that is one of the things we're going to be automating today. And obviously you can read everything here. It talks about warming up, what it is, how to set it up. Like, this is incredible stuff. Like, super, super amazing. If you haven't had a chance to look at this ebook, you should definitely do so. And so when scrolling down to this section over here, they mentioned that we should be replacing the warm up identifier at least once every 3 months to avoid tracking and redundancy. And so this is the warm-up identifier, right? And normally I put mine as smart leads. And so what they're recommending is that after 3 months, you change this to something else so that, you're avoiding looking the same and being redundant with the identifier. And so these are the main things we're going to be automating. Of course, there's many other things that we can automate, and I will actually go over those things, but what is on this page is the main focus for the video. So let's dive in. Awesome. So we're gonna get started with creating a brand new scenario, and we're going to be using these API documents right here to get the URL endpoints that we're going to need. And so the first thing that we're going to try to automate is what was at the top here, which is recommending us to set up the warm-up emails, the reply rate to 30%, and then after 2 weeks, we set it to 70%. So the first thing that you can do if you wanted to set this up is once you've added the accounts here, because obviously you're going to need to add them. You can also do it automatically. There's automations to do that. If you want to see those, just leave a comment, let us know. Another thing you can use is a vendor. And so what a vendor can do is they can simply log into your account, set up all of the email accounts, and then they leave. And then you would have to come into your Smartlead account to make those changes. But we'll assume that you added the accounts yourselves. And so having said that, as soon as you add them, you can simply bulk update and add all of the warm-up settings. However, on an occasion where it's wrong, this automation would be able to solve that. However, if you don't want to set it up yourself, we're going to be able to set it up as well. So the first thing you're going to need to do is fetch all email accounts. And so this is going to be this URL right here. and we're going to copy this URL and simply paste it into our make.com account. And what you're going to be looking for is this HTTP module, and the make a request is what you want. From there, you want to navigate over to your SmartLead account and simply copy your API key, which is going to be found in the Your Profile section. And so I've copied my API key and I've pasted it over into the URL endpoint. After that, you're going to get to parse the response, and the method you're going to be choosing is a get. And when we run this module only, we're going to be receiving information of a bunch of email accounts. Um, in fact, the limit is 10, so that's why we didn't get everything. Let us go ahead and run this again, and we should be getting a lot more this time. And so now we've got a whole bunch of email accounts. And so the next thing you want to do from here is use an iterator, because what this is outputting is an array. So this is an array. You want to split it so that you start looking at each of them one by one. And so from there, you're going to simply input the data right here. And when we run this again, we're going to be, like I said, looking at each of them one by one. And so this is one email account. We see the signature, we see all of the information about that email account. This is another email account, and this is another email account. And so from here, we're able to look at them one by one. But what we're looking for in this particular instance is the created date. And so if an email account was created within one day, then me personally, I like to make changes to the warm up things, because sometimes you might have made a mistake, or perhaps maybe you set the messages per day to 200. It should have actually been like 30, right? And so I like to actually make changes through the API. And so how you would do that is by clicking on this URL endpoint called update email account. And from here, you would simply copy the URL endpoint. And so I'm going to simply copy that and then paste it in this section right here, which is going to allow us to make changes to these email accounts. And so copy the API key, paste it again. And from here, we're going to need the email account ID, which we're going to have grabbed from this section right here. And so email account ID would be right here. And this, because we're making updates to the email account, is going to be a post. And the data for the post would be coming in from this section right here. And so this is what we would be pasting in the request content, which we would pick a raw JSON format. And we simply paste the request format. We change the messages per day. So like I said, sometimes when people are setting up these email accounts, they accidentally set the daily limit too high. This is going to allow you to solve that. Custom tracking, BCC, all of that other stuff. It's going to allow you to do this. This is an optional thing for you guys to do as just like one thing that I do. But what you guys are here for is the warm-ups, right? And so we can simply delete this, right? We don't need this anymore. I just wanted to show you, like, this is what I do, right? Like for my agency. But we're looking for warm-ups this time around. And so what we're going to do is add/update warm-up to email account. And so this is going to follow the exact same thing we just went through, where we copy the URL and we paste that here, and we grab the API key, paste it in that section as well, and email account ID is the same. So we just went through this, right? Like all of these modules, they follow the exact same structure. It's very simple. It looks complicated, but it's not. And once you've done this a few times, you're going to get a hang of it. And so from here, we simply copy the request content and then we paste it over here. And so the warm up is enabled, right? So when looking back at this document, we enable the warm up. The warm up should start with a daily ramp up of 5, and so I've just changed that from a 2 to a 5. And then the reply rate percentage should start at 30%, and the total warm ups per day should be 40, as was described. And this is also true. right? So all of this is looking amazing. And then the warm up key ID, this this is interesting, right? You can randomize it if you want to, but or you could keep it the same. It's really up to you. Like, I'm just going to do smart leads for the sake of simplicity for now. And so right here, we've just done the first section of what they talk about, which is setting up the warm up with a daily ramp up of 5 at a reply rate of 30%. But now 2 weeks go by and we want to make changes to all of this, right? We want to be able to see like emails that have been warming up for 2 weeks. So how this would go and how you can accomplish this is in two ways. The first way is by checking the create a date. And so this filter, by the way, I don't think we ever set it up, right? I did mention that this was important. You can do create a date, and then you scroll down and look for a date time operator, which is going to be um less than, which is going to be less earlier than or equal to, and then you would do now. Actually, yeah. You would do now. Actually, I think I might be wrong. But what I'm trying to do here is email accounts that were created within 1 day. So you would do something like this. I don't know if I'm doing it exactly right, but whatever. I think you get the point. And so this would allow you to set up brand new email accounts. And so I'm going to show you two ways that you can accomplish the second task. The first way is adding a router. So this filter that we've just created here, that would actually go over into this section, date time operator, and we would make that um later. You know what? I think it's later than. It's later than, and then you do add days. You put now, and then you put -1. So later than add days -1. I think that's the correct way to put it. And so every single email account that is brand new, just got created, will go into this section. The next and then after 2 weeks, so if we do this, we clone that, so all of that information. After 2 weeks, we look at the created date, and then we say if the date time operator is later than, you know what? I'm really bad at math. You guys are probably laughing at me like, how are you struggling with this? But I am. I am. Um, I think you put now and then you put -14. But I could totally be wrong. But I think you guys get the point, right? Like, this is checking every single email account that has been after 14. So this is one of the ways, and you would simply run this on a daily basis. And once an email account is new, we send it here, we add all of that information. If an email account is older than 2 weeks, we can add the daily ramp up. I believe is fine, but the reply percentage, we would be changing that over to 70. And you can even add another one which says after 3 months, right? So same exact deal that we just did here, and then you put it after 3 months. um Now, what I'm wondering is, because from week 2 to month 3, you don't do anything, right? You're only going to make a change on month 3. And so you would need to actually add another filter. So created at week 2, and what information do we get here? So we get, all right, let me think about this for a second. Okay, so I got it. Basically what's going to happen is 2 weeks we're going to be switching everything over to the um new information, but 2 weeks and 1 day we're going to be doing it again. 2 weeks and 2 days we're going to be doing it again, over and over and over. So one of the ways that you can solve that issue is simply adding another filter that looks something like this, which is daytime operators later than. Actually, I think it would be earlier than. Yeah, it would be earlier than daytime operators, earlier than 15 days. So this is one of the ways. It's just like a quick hack to get around this, right? Now the caveat is you have to actually be running this every single day, because it's going to actually require you to be within this exact specific time frame for it to actually work. The other way that you can make this work, is using a data store. So this is a make.com data store. It's actually found on the left hand side of the screen. You can create a record, and so add slash replace a record. And so you would actually be adding that in this section. So this is the add slash replace record, and you would create a data store, right? So you create a data store, and in this data store, you would pick a structure. And so the structure is going to be something like email ID, right? So the ID, and there would be nothing here. It would be required, yes. And then we will also do um, create date. I'll just put date, and this date can be changed. Like, I'll explain how this works, right? So we've created a date, we've created an ID. You would obviously have to create other fields to match what is in this section over here. So whatever is here that is relevant, you would be creating that in the data store. And so whenever we get a new email account, we can put the key as the username, right? We put or the email itself, and then we put the ID, and then this date is going to be what's going to be relevant for us. And so how I would actually call this, in thinking about it, it was probably like initiation date, right? That's the actual word. So initiation date, and the date, right? Like, if you recall, this is on day one. So this is what we're doing on day one. We're setting up the warm up percentages. And on day 14, we're doing this, right? And then this would be the 3 month thing, right? So on day one, we're going to be setting up an initiation date 2 weeks from now. And so once we've set it up, right? Once we've set up everything in day one, we would be doing this add days module, and we would do now, and we would add 14 days, like that. And so this is going to be super useful because we can actually create another automation that triggers for all of the accounts. So this would be it, right? So this automation would actually look something like this. So we don't even have the day 14 or any of that other stuff. We would have day 1, day 14. And by the way, if you want to have the day 14 and everything, you want to keep it simple. Like, if as long as you use the filter that I had shown where it's like 14 days, 15 days, that's going to work. This is just a little bit more advanced for those of you who want something like that. And so day 1, we're going to be setting it up like this, and then we would have an initiation date 2 weeks later. And in a brand new automation, what we would be doing with that initiation date, we would be using a data store to get records or search records. So we would be searching records in contact info. I think it's here, and we would be filtering for the date, and we would say equal to today or something. So equal to today. Um, Daytime operators equal to now. Yeah, I think, yeah, basically like this, right? So we would be finding every single date that is equal to today. And when I run this once, we're not going to have anything, right? Oh, actually, we got something. May 5 date. Um, yeah, this is not relevant. That's not it. So that's basically it, right? And what you would be getting as an output from this is the email account from Smartlead, which you would then input. Actually, let me show you how it all works, right? Let me just show you how it all works so that you don't leave the video confused. So we'll go into this section. We'll go into the data store. This is the data store that we've gotten, and I will add one. So we'll call this one of the emails that I've already got here. which is noel at useafonto.com. Noelm at useafonto.com. And then we'll call this, we'll find the ID, which is over here. And then the date, I will make it today. Can I do that? Aye, aye. It's 2024. And then we'll save. And so when we run this again, let me see what it shows. Filter. Oh, you know what? I think that's the problem. Um, Daytime operators equal to today. I think you know what you need to use. I think you need to use one of these format dates. Um, but yeah, this video is getting long, so we're actually just gonna focus on the ID. But you would be using the format date to get this to work properly. We'll just do this for now to make it simple. So text equals to, we'll get the ID, and the ID is going to pop up here with the email account. And as you recall, we are going to be using the information from here. And so you can put basically anything that you want. And from here, this is only going to be outputting things that meet that date. And so this automation would start on day one, send the information here, change the initiation date inside the data store to 2 weeks out, 2 weeks from now. And then 2 weeks from now, a new module, a new automation right here would be running. And so when we look at this automation, we would be calling it 2 week um warm up stuff. I'll just call it that, 2 weeks. So this is the 2 week automation. It starts with the data store. And in fact, we can duplicate this, and then we can have a third automation, which is going to be 3 month automation, right? Automation. And that's how it would be working, right? So after this 2 weeks, after we do everything with the 2 weeks, we're going to have another initiation date, which is going to be 3 months from now. And from there, so when we go back to this automation, we've got the day 14. We're going to we're going to copy all that information. So copy the module, paste it in this section right here, which is the 2 weeks section. The ID, we would be grabbing it from the actual record itself, and we would update the warm-up information. So if you recall, we updated the warm-up information to 5 daily warm-up and 30% reply percentage. And over here, we update the daily warm-up to 70%, right? So that's the idea. And then after this is done, we're going to do the same thing. So we do a data store, and then we, in this case, I think we're going to do update a record, right? So we update a record, we update the same record that we had previously updated, and we change the date. So the initiation date, now instead of it being being like 2 weeks from now, we're going to be doing add months. So add months, and then we would change, actually we could just do now. Yeah, I think now is fine. And then we add 3 months. We add 3 months. And in 3 months, a new module is going to run, and it's going to be coming from the data store. So the data store, search records again, we have the date, and every single day this is running to find any accounts with an initiation date of X, right? And that's what's going to help us do everything. So we do that here. We run it, we get all this information. And so if you recall, what we're trying to do here with that information is update the identifier. And I don't think this automation did that. It did not. So you would simply navigate back to this section right here, and you would be looking for an identifier, which I think is an update email account. So update email account. That's funny. We already had it. The warm up identifier is already here. Like we could just change that. So right here in 2 weeks, it's smart leads. In 3 months, I can copy this module. I can go here. sorry, I could just paste it here, and then this would be, we would rename this module to month three, month three. And from here, we would simply change the warm up identifier. And right here at Smart Leads, we can randomize this using various things here. But that's really up to you, right? Like you could change this to whatever you want. But this is like an in-depth video, like actual like setup, how I build these things and how I think through it, right? Like off the cuff. And I hope this was helpful. So if you integrate all these three automations, so this is the first automation, you can ignore these two modules. This is day one automation. We check all the email accounts, iterate through them, get all of the warm-ups, and then send it to a data store, which we call upon 2 weeks later. And then we update all of that information. And then 3 months later, we call upon that again, and then we do this again. Last thing actually is you could simply copy that data store for month three and do it again. So we've changed the 3 months, we add another 3 months. And so 3 months later, we change the warm up identifier again, and it's going to be popping up here. And another thing that I'm thinking about as I'm rambling, you actually, in the data store, we've got ID, we've got initiation date. You want to do stage or something like that. And so the stage, this is going to be day one stage, moving to 2 week stage, moving to 3 week stage, because these things are running on a weekly basis or something like that. Oh, sorry, on a daily basis. Whenever the date matches the 2 week warm up, we want to check the stage to see, is this so it would be like this. So we've got ID right here, we would be doing this. Think of this as stage. Is this a 2 week warm up stage, or is this a 3 month identifier change? And so that was a long video, but the goal for this was that you guys can learn something about how to automate this stuff. And so hopefully this was helpful. Check out the document by Smartlead, because this is amazing. There's an insane amount of things here, and I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Cheers.